wonder why that is. Yeah, how do we get here?
The truth is undermined your foundation.
The truth is a commodity.
So many people now in the know.
People are noticing.
You thought that you'd see the day that you could just get away from the ones you betrayed who raised their voices to...
Hey, Zionist media, you won't be trusted anymore. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation, TGIF. It's Friday, November 7th, 2025, and as always, I am broadcasting for the most confused, dumbed down, manipulated, and brainwashed nation on the face of the planet, bringing you news and information, thoughts and ideas that they hope and pray that you never thunk of. Anyway, I'm Dave vonKleist. These are the WTF reports, and as always, we are broadcasting live from 2:05 Eastern Time, that's PM, by the way, for an hour until the top of the hour. And if you're on the Pacific Coast, well, that would be 11 a.m. or 11:05 a.m. until 12 noon. And you can do the math for the time zones in between. That means that if you're listening live, you can call in. And the phone number here is 215-867-8255. And as always, we welcome your phone calls. But I got a ton of stuff to get to today, as I seem to always have that. And this broadcast is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. Do you believe what Nikola Tesla shared with the world? Yeah, I do too. And so did Royal Raymond Rife, and he developed a technology with frequencies that would help cells proliferate and thrive. He also found that certain frequencies would destroy bacteria, viruses, and other bugaboos. And that technology has been basically recreated, resurrected, and now there are Rife machines that are out there that you can get, and they're pretty expensive. They got a pretty good learning curve there, and they're pretty, they're very effective. But there's a woman by the name of Linda Banber who figured out how to shrink this thing down to the size of a wristwatch, and that's why it's called the Wave Watch. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. You'll find out that there's some real benefits from using a Wave Watch. Now, I'm not here to tell you it's going to cure or treat anything, but I got to tell you, I've been using it for the past couple of weeks. I had a real scare because I thought I was coming down with a bout of kidney stones, and I've already had those. I know that they are no fun at all. So I started using my Wave Watch, and within a few days, that pain subsided. And I don't know, maybe I already passed the stones, but I'm feeling just fine. If you want to avoid any problems like that, you need to check it out. Check out the Wave Watch at our website. Okay, that said, there's a lot of people that are noticing. A lot of people who are noticing. At a recent TPUSA, Turning Point USA event, people were standing in line, and there was a gentleman, he was being interviewed on the War Room with Steve Bannon. And this guy came out and said, the quiet part out loud. Now, a lot of people, of course, are taking heat for investigating into this assassination of Charlie Kirk. And, of course, Candace Owens is right at the top of the list of the investigators who are taking flack. They're just going after Candace left and right. Well, guess what? For those of you who want to attack anybody who's doing independent investigation, you're going to have to not only go after Candace, you're going to have to go after Clayton Morris, Tucker Carlson, TPV Sean, Justice Knight, Ian Carroll, Ryan Mata, Eric Warsaw, and, Jimmy Dore, okay? And yours truly. We will not stop asking questions. It ain't going to happen. Now, you can call us conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat. You can do it. Doesn't work anymore. Does not work anymore. Because a lot of people are asking the same doggone questions. And as I was saying, there was a gentleman who was standing in line to get into the most recent TPUSA event. And he was talking to people. Oh, gosh, maybe you shouldn't talk to people. Listen to what this guy said. And again, this was on the War Room with Steve Bannon. Listen up.
So I was in line with people for 3 hours talking to all the folks. And they were Christians, and they were happy, and they had families, and they were lovely people. And I started talking to them. And they were happy and prayerful, and none of them that I spoke to believed that the shooter that they got and have arrested actually did it. And they are
the War Room Posse. It's 0%.
They were and they were angry.
Same with our chat.
They don't need that. They don't. Not saying this guy's not a bad guy and an evil guy.
Right.
But they think something, and this is why Kash Patel did announce today that the FBI has officially expanded the investigation. My big fear was you would get a lone wolf, lone gunman, and Utah police, and everybody want to shut it down. I think Kash said today that they've expanded it out because we have to.
Yeah, you're doggone right he has to. Hey, Kash Patel, I guess that thing backfired on you. Last week I reported, and I had the audio clip. As a matter of fact, maybe I could pull that up here. But Kash Patel basically said that his concern was pursuing the prosecution. Wasn't about getting justice. They just want to prosecute Tyler Robison, get him convicted, executed, turn the page, move on, nothing to see here. But that's not working. No, it's not working. Too many people are asking questions, and I will tell you, all of you yahoos out there who are attacking Candace Owens and all the other people who are investigating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, if you're attacking the investigators, you're going to look pretty doggone stupid. As a matter of fact, you're not only going to look stupid, you're going to look guilty as sin. Yeah, guilty as sin for covering up this whole thing. So you better go look in the mirror and figure out what side of truth you're going to stand on. Because there's a lot of us out here that believe one thing.
All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth.
That's all we want is the truth. And maybe you're being influenced. Maybe somebody is behind the scenes poking you or harassing you, or maybe utilizing those three magic words.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah, blackmail. That could be it. Yeah, okay, well, we're going to get into this, but I got to share with you something that one of these condemned investigators came up with. And again, if you dare investigate independently, you're somehow a bad person. Oh, really? Okay, well, hey, all you regular listeners out there, if you've been paying attention to this entire situation since Charlie was assassinated, you know that they've been sharing photographs of the alleged shooter. Yeah, here he is. Yeah, he's got sunglasses on, and he's wearing this hoodie, and he's got a backpack on, and they got pictures of him coming up the stairs. Maybe you've seen them, okay? Well, guess what? Guess flaming what? They zoom in on this guy's face. And you look at his ears. This guy has earlobes. In other words, the earlobes are not attached to the side of the head. All right? So there's your shooter. They're telling you that that's the shooter. There he is. That's him. That's him. We got him on picture. Here's this angle. Here's this angle. That's the shooter. We got him. We got him. Here he is. And he's got earlobes. Guess what? Tyler Robison doesn't have earlobes. Ooh, what does that mean? That means it might be somebody other than Tyler Robison. Who could it be? Well, dear campers, it's rather interesting that Lance Twigs, who was Tyler Robinson's gay lover in the process of doing a transition, Lance Twigs disappeared a week after the assassination. He's nowhere to be seen. Nobody's seen him for 7 weeks. Not only that, but Lance Twigs has earlobes. Oh my goodness, the plot thickens. Got to think outside the cage, folks. And all you idiots, all you a-holes out there who are attacking the independent investigators, you're going to have to basically turn and run because you're going to be seen as part of the problem and not part of the solution. Oh, but wait, there's more. Okay, if you want to solve a crime, you have to realize 3 things. There's motive, means, and opportunity. All right? So, what could possibly be the motive? What would motivate somebody to off Charlie Kirk? Could it be that maybe he had come to notice certain things? maybe he had come to realize that the entity that he had been promoting so strongly and with great dedication, standing by Israel, and all of a sudden he starts to put the puzzle pieces together and realize, I've been supporting the wrong guys. Yeah. Did you know that Charlie Kirk wanted to have an audit of TPUSA? Yeah, that was one of the things that he's on record for. Well, can't have that. He was also criticizing Israel for their actions. He also was questioning the October 7th massacre, which we now know, and many official agencies have come forth and said, yeah, this thing sure as heck looks like the Hannibal Directive. Yeah, this sure looks like an inside job. Yours truly's been screaming this from day one. Anyway, yeah, keep your hats on, folks. It's going to get better. But let me see. I've got several different clips here. Oh, as far as this audit is concerned, Candace Owens was addressing this. Here's what she had to say in regard to possibly doging TPUSA. Listen up.
You know, they're angry at people who are investigating Charlie's death and catching them in lies. Mm-hmm. That's why she's mad. She's mad because she lied about me on her podcast, and I called it out, okay? If you don't lie on me, I won't have to call it out. If you don't tell lies about things that took place, about things that were happening at Turning Point USA, at the reason why Charlie wanted a Doge as she did. Oh, we do this no, you don't do a Doge every year. You want to know how I know that? Because Doge didn't exist before Elon Musk. So it's like, what are you saying? They want us to pretend we're really dumb. And it's emotionally manipulative for them to be like, that's how you honor Charlie. Pretend to be an idiot. Pretend to not know how accounts work. Pretend to not know what it means when we say certain things and then change our stories multiple times. Pretend like it's just beyond the pale that Candace would suggest that we're engaging in a cover-up. Yes, I did say that. I didn't say that Mikey murdered Charlie Kirk. I said Turning Point is engaged in a cover-up because that is literally the only reason that people lie.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's really interesting is, Charlie was pushing for an audit, all right? And a lot of the donors didn't like that, and they were pulling their support. Okay, now remember, the annual budget for Turning Point USA was about $140 million. Bibi Netanyahu offered Charlie $150 million, and he turned it down. Ooh, that's a slap in the face to Bibi Netanyahu. Netanyahu also invited Charlie to come to Israel, have a sit-down chit-chat with him. Charlie said no. So anyway, all these donors, he was getting pressure from the donors, and I played the audio clips here, and they were pulling all their financial support away from TPUSA. Well, what do you know? Just days after Charlie was dead, all those donors started coming back in. And yeah, folks like, Mikey McCoy and Josh Hammer and all these people working with TPUSA were smiling ear to ear because the money's coming back in. Yay! Well, guess what? Now, those donors are starting to say,
hey, wait a minute. Maybe Charlie was talking about doing an audit. Maybe that's not such a bad idea.
So now the donors are saying, TPUSA, you got to do an audit. And TPUSA doesn't want to do that, so these donors are pulling their money again. So, motive means an opportunity. What would motivate somebody to want to take out Charlie Kirk? Well, maybe it might have something to do with Israel. Yeah, maybe. Could happen. Possible. I don't know. Maybe you know. Oh, man. Anyway, the journalism, when it comes to, here in the United States, now, if you've been listening to me for a while, and I do go back a few decades. As a matter of fact, that song that I use for my intro, the intro to the show, You Won't Be Trusted Anymore, that song was dedicated to the mainstream media 30 years ago after the Oklahoma City bombing, 1995. I've been screaming about the lying media for a long time. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not alone anymore. That sure feels good. And let me see if I had another one here. Where is it? Journalists are being fired if they challenge Israel. As a matter of fact, it's not just in this country. It's over in Italy. Listen to this.
It is 2025 and European journalists are being fired for asking questions. Italian journalists in particular are being fired for asking the European Commission questions on Israel's conduct. Repeatedly for the past several years, the European Commission has argued that Russia should pay for all of Ukraine's damage because Russia has destroyed much of Ukraine's infrastructure, therefore they should pay for it. An Italian journalist asked them on this topic and said, "You've been repeating several times that Russia should pay for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Do you believe that Israel should pay for the reconstruction of Gaza since they have destroyed most of its civilian infrastructure?" Ooh. To which he got fucking fired. He lost his job. The European Commission said, "Definitely an interesting question on which I would not have any comment." It is 2025 and journalists are being fired for asking questions about Israel. Is that not fucking insane to you?
Yes, it is insane. I had to cut that out a little bit. So the tentacles from these Zionists go all over the world. Yeah. Now, this is not, we cannot equate Zionism with Judaism, and I'll get to that. I've said that over and over and over again. Zionism is political dogma, and Judaism is a religion. They are not the same. It's not apples and oranges. It's apples and power tools. They don't work. So anyway, Candace Owens was going after this and pointing this out as well. The media has been taken over by the Zionists. Listen up.
Because what it registers to me as is power. Real power hiding behind a veneer of victimhood. The kind of power that can take somebody out and end their entire career if that person says something that they don't like. And in this case, it's not that I'm saying things that they don't like. It's that I'm refusing to allow my voice to be controlled. I want to be clear to you guys. I'm going to be honest with you because everybody's noticing it. Every single political commentator in America, every single one of them knows this, that if you do not step out and say things that are radically pro-Israel, or if you are too quiet on certain narratives and they want you to be radically pro-Israel, you can lose everything. That's truth. That is a fact. I'm not feeling like I need to hide from that anymore or be afraid to say it, rather, is a better way to say it, because I've endured this for years. I'm just at the end of my rope. I have given so much rope here, and I am just done with it. Every person that you are a fan of, they know this. Every person that you line up to go here speak, they know this. Again, it's not even on the basis of what you say. It can sometimes be on the basis of what you don't say. That an entire mob will assemble. They'll write piece after piece after piece until you subjugate. If you don't subjugate, the bounty grows larger. So yes, there was a large bounty on my head for the crime of refusing to suddenly hate Muslims and to condone Muslims getting bombed following October 7th. Everybody can see that.
Everybody can see that you are commanded to stay within the intellectual cage that they have set up for you. Well, there are a lot of people who have been questioning this for years. Even Paul Newman, 30 years ago, he was on television. What was the interviewer's name? The guy with the white hair, I can't remember. But anyway, that's inconsequential. Here's Paul Newman, 30 flaming years ago. Listen up.
In 1978 or 79, the Israelis shot down a Libyan civilian aircraft because it had violated Israeli airspace. President Nixon sent a wire to Gaddafi and to Sadat apologizing for this incident. There was no talk about it going into the United Nations. The International Pilots Associations had their meeting, and the American representative abstained. Why? Because we couldn't create an enemy there. But when the Soviets shoot down an airliner, the same situation, we rise in moral outrage against this act. What is the difference? Because it's insistent. We must insist that the Soviets have got to be created as an enemy. Otherwise, if they're not really a big enough enemy, how are we going to get appropriations for more arms?
That's right. Now, listen to the similarity of what you just heard from Paul Newman and the previous audio clip I just played. They will take a tragedy and what's the word I'm looking for? The hypocrisy is insane. Now, you just heard this woman that was saying, hey, look at, there was an Italian journalist at the EU. The EU is saying that Russia should pay for the reconstruction of Ukraine, but how dare you suggest that Israel should pay for the reconstruction of Gaza? You get your ass fired. All right, well, but that's why I played the Paul Newman thing, because that was the same doggone thing 30 years ago. That's the playbook. You cannot criticize Israel. No. That is verboten. Well, there are a lot of people now who are standing up against Israel. And they're saying, hey, look, there's no reason that we should be sending billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars over to a country that has been hostile to us. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Israel bombed a Catholic church in Gaza, and that an entire population is being wiped out as they continue their aggressive war in Gaza. My amendment would strike $500 million in funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense system. The U.S. already provides Israel with $3.8 billion annually in foreign aid. $3.8 billion, that's a lot of money. Additionally, the April 2024 security supplemental included $8.7 billion for Israel.
Okay, let me stop right there. There was 3 point something plus 8 point something. We're talking over $11 billion that we send over to Israel. What do we get in return? What do they get? Well, go ahead. You tell her, Margie.
Even though Israel, nuclear-armed Israel, has universal health care for their citizens and subsidized college for their citizens. They're able to provide that. However, here in America, we're $37 trillion in debt. My amendment will ensure an America First Department of Defense, and that is exactly what we need and we haven't had for a very long time.
Not only do we send them all that money, but Israel is also a safe haven for the pedophiles. You remember a month or so ago, there was a sting operation in Las Vegas. There were some people that were trying to traffic young children. One of the people who was arrested happened to be in Israeli intelligence. And did he get arrested? No, they put him on a plane and sent him home. Why is that? Maybe it's because Israel is up to their eyeballs in trafficking. Can you say Jeffrey Epstein? Can you say Ghislaine Maxwell? Can you say Robert Maxwell? Hey, Dan Bongino, have you figured it out yet? Which Middle Eastern country has all those videotapes? Which Middle Eastern country could well be blackmailing most of our politicians? Have you figured it out yet? Maybe you should talk to Rick Wiles. Hey, Rick, why don't you spill the beans here? This is Rick Wiles saying the quiet part out loud.
And our leaders are low-life scum that screw little girls so the Jews can screw America. That's what's happening in this country. I just said it. That's what's going on in this country. And our FBI is corrupt. The Supreme Court is corrupt. The Justice Department is corrupt. The news media is corrupt. The whole country is corrupt because we've walked away from Almighty God and we've allowed Kabbalah-practicing Jews to defile the nation. Put that video out. Go ahead and clip this video and send it out. I dare you. You won't do it because you're scared that the truth may get out to the American people. I'm had it up to here with the corruption in this country. Little children being raped for the benefit of Israel. That's all it's about, Doc. Little American children being raped for the benefit of Israel. American politicians raping little American girls to be videotaped by Israeli Mossad so that Israel can blackmail American politicians. That's the state of America today. God ought to destroy this country for what we've become.
Well, I've said many, many years ago, if God blesses America, then he owes Sodom and Gomorrah a sincere apology. Okay, I got a lot more. And by the way, yeah, the phone lines are open. You want to rake me over the coals and condemn me for participating in questioning the official narrative of just about anything, give me a call, 215-867-8255. Do you believe that Tyler Robison did it? And if you don't, I'd like to know why. Again, give me a call, 215-867-8255.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now, the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And you can get More Tank by visiting our website, TheWTFReports.com. Scroll down to the bottom or just click on the sponsors button, and it'll take you to a window where you can click on Get More Tank and read all the specifications and details about how and why this fuel catalyst works. It's not a fuel additive. No, it's a whole different animal. This is a fuel catalyst. It affects your fuel so that it burns at a lower temperature, it cleans out your engine, gives you more power, and after your engine is conditioned after a tank or two, you will start to see improved mileage, anywhere between 15 and 20% better mileage depending upon your make, model, and year of vehicle and your driving habits. Yeah, this stuff works, and I've been using this now for 2 years, and I'll tell you, after you've used it for a little while, you're going to have to get used to how do you hit your accelerator, because it's going to become very sensitive when you hit that gas. More power. Yeah, you're right out of the starting line. When that light turns green, nothing but butts and feet. That's what everybody else is going to see. And you're gone. Anyway, so if you want to check this stuff out, I hope you do. And by doing so, you'll be supporting the broadcast. So please visit our website, The WTF Reports. Click on the sponsors page and get More Tank. You'll be glad that you did. Okay, once again, the phone number here is 215-867-8255. Anything that you want to bring to the table is just fine with me. All right, getting back into this issue about who's controlling who's zooming who. Yeah, I think we all know that there are tentacles that are reaching all over this globe that are trying to control this globe. All right? And, everybody says it's the Jews. Well, I would think that, people understand that there's a big difference between real Old Testament Jews, Torah Jews, and the Talmudic Jews. The ones, the Ashkenazis, the Khazars. Do some research if this is all new territory for you. But again, I remind you, Johns Hopkins University did that ancestry study and found that 97.5% of Israelis are not indigenous. They are from Eastern Europe and North America. And the same ancestry study was performed on the Palestinians, and they found that 80% of the Palestinians are indigenous. The Palestinians are the Semites. The Israelis are the anti-Semites. Now, if you apply that percentage, if the Israelis are only 2.5% original, let's apply that to the world population of quote-unquote Jews. How many of those Jews are real Jews? Well, there's a lot of them out there, and you see them protesting Israel all the time. They are condemning Israel and the Zionist regime, and unfortunately, their numbers aren't as big. Because the Zionist Jews, the fake Jews, the 97.5% of those people who call themselves Jews, but they are not, go to Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. Yeah. So if that's true, let's take a look at the influence that they have on our country. You see that star, okay, and I will not call it the Star of David because there's no such thing. There is a star of Remphan, also known as the Star of Moloch. And Moloch is also Baal, and Baal is also Lucifer. So we have to ask the question, all of these individuals in the media, we've seen the graphics online, we've seen the pictures of all the CEOs and editors and all these people, presidents of these corporations, the media, Hollywood and manufacturing, pharmaceuticals. They all have that star there. Okay, does that represent Judaism? Well, they'd like you to think so, but it's not. It represents Zionism, and that's the way I see it. I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to spew hatred here, but if somebody is trying to, screw up our country and indeed take over the country and the world based upon a lie, I ain't going to go along with that. No, I'm not going to do it, especially when they are a brutal, sadistic, monstrous, satanic, and yes, I use that word specifically, group of people. Now, I've reported on this in the past. I had several different audio clips I played from doctors who were over there in Gaza, and they were talking about how the Palestinians were being targeted. Different days, they would have different types of injuries. And yet another report came in from England just recently, and here's a doctor explaining the exact same thing. So this is like the third or fourth confirmation that this type of activity is going on. The IDF and the Mossad are evil SOBs. Listen to this.
And what was even more distressing was the pattern of injuries that we saw, the clustering of injuries to particular body parts on certain days. So one day they'd be coming in predominantly with gunshot wounds to the head or the neck, another day to the chest, another day to the abdomen. And I operated one day on half a dozen young boys, all of whom had severe abdominal injuries. One day, 12 days ago, 4 young teenage boys came in, all of whom had been shot in the testicles. And deliberately so. And this is not coincidental. The clustering was far, far too obvious to be coincidental. And it seemed to us like this was almost like a game of target practice. We're going to shoot the head today, tomorrow it'll be the chest, the next day it'll be the testicles. I would never have believed this possible unless I'd witnessed this with my own eyes. And there is virtually no feed being allowed in for them. That story about the American doctor talking about the formula feeds being refused entry is true. I met several doctors who had formula feed cartons of them in their luggage. They were all confiscated by the Israeli border guards, specifically those. Nothing else confiscated, just the formula feed. And there are babies dying. There are 4 premature babies who died in the first 2 weeks when I was in Gaza, in Nasser Hospital. And there'll be many, many more deaths unless the Israelis allow proper food to get in there and nutrition.
And these reports that many of these patients are being kept alive with sugar and water, is that what you were doing as well?
Yeah, well, so the first week I was there, I visited the paediatric unit, and there were, I think, virtually all the children on the paediatric intensive unit then were being fed with 10% dextrose, which, as you say, is sugar water. There's no nutritional value at all.
So this is what God's chosen people are doing. Now, I'm not here to condemn and judge and all that, but unfortunately, you got to call it the way I got to call it the way I see it. Now, if we're going to support this, and we're going to continue to support this, well, then we're going to reap the benefits. But this has been going on, like I've been pointing out in this broadcast, this has been going on for decades, indeed generations, because the same influence has been going back for well over a century. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, etc., they're all playing the same tune. You could go back in time. As a matter of fact, there was a girl who's in college. I want to share with you. This really upset her. Now, this is one of the reasons why people are so misinformed, is because they go into the public, well, not public education, it's actually public indoctrination system, They get out of that and they go to college, and then they got to pay all this money, of course, for student loans and, dorm fees and books and all that. And then when they get their textbooks, the textbooks are brainwashing them. Here's one girl's, she was really upset when she had an assignment and she had to read a specific chapter. Listen to what she had to say.
I might be getting canceled for this, but I'm kind of pissed off. Anyway, I'm a senior in college and I'm in international public relations, and I was told to read Chapter 8 this week of International Public Relations, Negotiating Culture, Identity, and Power. I'm reading, I just opened it up to Chapter 8 about 5 minutes ago. I've been sitting here in awe. Chapter 8 is titled Contested Identities Shifting Publics in a Globalized World.
Listen to this.
I'm going to read you what I just read and where I stopped. I think it's the second sentence, maybe the third. Identity may be one of the most contentious words of the new millennium. An internet search produces the following modifiers for identity: corporate, sexual, digital, public, racial, national, brand, and even Christian. A US-based white supremacist group.
Whoa, now wait a second right there. Identity. We've heard that word before. And they're equating Christians as white supremacists. This is in the textbooks. This is what they're teaching our college students.
Wow.
I'm pissed. So I would just like to say that as a Christian, if you're reading this and you're not a Christian and you're in college, I am not a white supremacist. So can we cancel these authors? Are we going to cancel me?
Yeah, are they going to cancel her? Exactly. This is the problem, is that they've been in control of the education system so that they can brainwash and rewrite history. And a perfect example of rewriting history is the following. Listen to this.
We spent years in school learning about the Jewish Holocaust. So imagine my surprise once I got out of school and I learned that there was an even bigger Christian Holocaust going on in Russia at the same time that we were locking arms with Stalin. The Bolsheviks of Russia, with an 84% Jewish leadership, killed thousands of priests, burned down 40,000 churches, and over 60 million Christians. We supposedly live in a Christian nation, but we aren't even taught Christian history in school.
Okay, I'm going to pause that. Did you hear that? The Bolshevik Revolution, 60 million Christians slaughtered. That's 10 times more than what we were told happened in Germany. Of course, we got 6 million over here and 60 million over there, but you were never taught about the 60. No, because of the mustache guy. Right.
We're heavily propagandized that the mustache man was the greatest mass murderer, and they spend years drilling it into our heads about the Jewish Holocaust. And we don't learn about the Bolshevik Revolution because they were mostly Jewish. So it conflicts with this narrative of the Jews always being persecuted in every single circumstance. Even from a young age, they are pushing this bizarre relationship that we have with Israel. Anytime anything happens in Israel, there's wall-to-wall coverage in the American mass media, but the media is silent about the Christians being killed in Armenia and Nigeria right now.
Right now,
and guess who's supplying the arms for Christians to be killed in Armenia?
Who?
Israel. And who does Israel get their money and their weapons from? The American taxpayers. The media demands that American Christians condemn October 7th and talk about Israel. But would they ever ask a Jewish person about the Christians being persecuted all around the world? The answer is no. So why are Christians denied the right to speak or learn about their history in school, but they're required to constantly speak and condemn anything that happens to the state of Israel? If we live in a Christian nation, why does our government not stand up for the millions of Christians being persecuted all around the world, but instead pass ridiculous laws against anti-Semitic speech? Listen, when you learn that the Bolshevik Revolution was actually a Jewish revolution to take out their enemies, which are the Christians, and it was funded by Jewish financial interests in Europe and the United States, well, let me just say that history and current events start to make a lot more sense.
And remember that history is written by those who hang the heroes. Yeah. This has been going on for all of our lives, folks. This has been going on for generations. So it should come as no surprise why American people are so brainwashed, so poorly educated. As a matter of fact, David Icke had a presentation, and he hit some nerves as well. And again, you can get mad at me if you want. You can call me an anti-Semite, which I'm not. Okay, we already defined what the anti-Semitism is on this broadcast. And you can call me a Jew hater, which I'm not. Like I said, I differentiate between the good Jews and the bad Jews. I feel like it's like a Wizard of Oz, Are you a good witch or are you a bad witch? Well, chances are, as far as the numbers are concerned, as you gotta call it the way you see it. And the overwhelming number of people who call themselves Jews are not. They are Zionists. They are evil. Yeah, and they do worship, like I said, they worship Moloch. They got the star of Remphan right on their flag. It's in your face. It's right there for you to see it. But I guess, Thursday night football was more important. But anyway, here's David Icke on the same topic. Here he is.
What I'm about to say now, most people, the overwhelming majority of people in what we call conspiracy research, won't touch this subject. Well, I'm going to bloody touch it because I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of people being frightened and intimidated into not touching it. First of all, we as a human race have got to get our freaking heads around what this is, because it ain't what we're told it is. It's not about what's right and beneficial for Jewish people. Jewish people are its victims, not its beneficiaries. Jewish people have been hung out to dry again and again by this crowd that claim to have their best interests at heart, like hell they do. That's why I call this Rothschild Zionism. It was created by them, it is controlled by them to this minute, and it was created as a secret society within the web to massively contribute to the manipulation and control of our global society and individual countries, etc., etc. It's Rothschild Zionism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, not that anti-Semitism means what we think it does. Zionism is not about Jewish people. Even in its play-out way or world, it is a political system, a political philosophy. At its core, it is a secret society putting its agents in places of power. One of the very few things that Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, has ever said, which is true, is you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. Because of the propaganda, we equate Zionism with Jewish people. It's not how it is. How many people know this? How many Jewish people around the world are protesting, have organizations created to protest against Zionism? Zionism and Judaism are diametrically opposed. Zionism is state-organized terror. How many times do we see this in the newspapers? Never. End of Zionism equals peace. Israel, stop killing Palestinians. I am Jewish and I want that. Why don't we hear about this? We condemn any Zionist aggression against Iran. I thought every Jewish person in the world wanted to bomb Iran. That's what the media seem to give us an indication about. Another Jew against Zionism. Over and over. Rothschild dynasty created Israel. It paid for the first people out of Europe to go and people Israel after the war. It paid for the building of the Knesset. It paid for the building of the Supreme Court building with all its Illuminati symbols all over it. And some of the people who've broken out of the family, I quote one of them in my book, have actually said, Israel is not the homeland of Jewish people. It is the fiefdom of the Rothschild dynasty.
Bingo.
Created out of Rothschild Zionism, a secret society. And Rothschild Zionism has been used via Israel to devastate, slaughter, torture an entire nation of human beings.
And by the way, was it yesterday or the day before? Yeah, they launched a big attack into South Lebanon, blowing up an entire Christian village, including their church. Yeah, they just want peace, right? Yeah, right. Well, maybe this is why Jesus said in John 8:44, he said, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Now, how does that equate, excuse me, to Israel today? Well, I mentioned it earlier this week. Are you aware that the motto for the Israeli Mossad and the IDF is, and I quote, "By deception thou shalt make war," unquote. By deception. Deception is lying. Well, gosh, that's what Jesus said. By lying we shall make war. So they shall deceive. They will lie. And there's not just, it's not just you lying about, one thing. It's not just one kind of warfare. It's not just conventional warfare with guns and rifles and grenades and tanks and bombs and missiles and drones and tanks. No, that's conventional warfare. There's more kinds of warfare. There's psychological warfare. There's economic warfare. There's information warfare, class warfare, holy warfare. There's legal warfare, or otherwise known as lawfare. And again, by deception thou shalt make war. Well, that's a commandment that the Israeli government has given the Mossad and the IDF. That's their commandment. I'm sorry, but I've heard of a couple of other commandments that supersede yours, one of which says, thou shalt not bear false witness. In other words, thou shalt not lie. Well, I thought that the Jews and the Christians shared the same 10 commandments. Well, they do. But there are Jews they're not really Jews. And by their deeds, what does it say? By your fruits I shall know ye. So, thou shalt not bear false witness is diametrically opposed to the commandment of the IDF and the Mossad. And then there's this other commandment, thou shalt not murder. Well, Glorioski, we just heard testimony from a doctor who was in Gaza, and that wasn't the only testimony. I've been playing the testimonies from other doctors that said the same doggone thing, that the Israeli IDF is using children for target practice. Oh, today we're going to shoot kids in the head. And then a whole bunch of kids get brought into the hospital with headshots. Oh, today we're going to do it in the chest. See if you can hit them in the heart. Well, what do you know? On that day, chest wounds are abundant. Oh, okay, today we're going to shoot them in the testicles. So where do you suppose all those wounds are from these kids that are being brought into the hospital? This is the kind of people that we're dealing with. Oh, yes, and they are the most moral army in the world. They would never do anything bad. No. And the Israeli people, can you believe that? Wait till you hear this. There have been many reports about IDF soldiers raping Palestinian women. And there's actually video out there of a woman being brought in. She's blindfolded and her wrists are tied. They slam her up against the wall. And then a bunch of soldiers come and surround her and put their shields up so you can't see. But we all know what's going on. This is the most moral army in the world. Yeah. When will people wake up and say, look, we've got to break the shackles. We've got to, sever the bonds. Israel is not our greatest ally. As a matter of fact, they're targeting people, not just for target practice, but now they're surveilling everybody. Did you know, and you better check this out, if you have a Samsung phone, this is something that you should know. Listen up.
Israel is turning every single Samsung phone into a surveillance device. Do you have a Samsung phone? You might want to pay attention. App Cloud pre-installed, impossible to delete. It knows your location. It knows your fingerprint. It knows your IP address. It knows every text, every call, and every search that you make. Did you know that? This isn't just data collection. This is blackmail material. Imagine the power that Israel now has to know who's criticizing them, to know who's organizing against them, to know who's a threat. They will use this against American citizens, against politicians, against businesses. And what's the response from the Trump White House or from our government as a whole? Silence. Nothing, because Israel's interests are America's interests now.
Well, no, they're not. But I know what you mean. Yeah, we don't have much of a choice. Well, we do, but we have to act on it. And I'll tell you, I don't know how this thing is going to resolve itself, but this whole thing about privacy, yeah, it's kind of important. I even wrote a song about it years ago.
We've got some real problems that I know we must get solved. And I want to be part of the team, I want to get involved. The federal officials say they want to chip my herd, but that won't solve the problem, and I think that it's absurd.
Yeah, they want to tokenize every animal.
They want to chip my chickens, goats, and chip my horses too. They say they want to stop disease, and that's what they must do. The price for all this chipping done, my state will have to pay. And that means they'll raise my taxes, and I don't get to have a say. What about my privacy? What about my right to life and liberty? If I decide to ride my horse and leave my property, well, I'll face $1,000 fine, and they'll come after me. They say it's voluntary, but in just a few years' time, it will be mandatory, and non-compliance will be crime.
Oh, it's coming.
What about my sovereignty? Why won't you leave us alone? Just let us be, 'cause I take care of my animals and I feed them real food, and I know that they are healthy, and so I must now conclude that there's another plan so to control the food supply. Yes, it's harder to accept the truth, they'd rather sell the lie. What about my sovereignty? What about my right to life and liberty? If you think chipping animals is what we have to do, well then we're not very far from chipping me and chipping you. If you just still don't get it, and if you think there's no harm, well then think of Nazis putting tattooed numbers on your arm. What about my sovereignty? What about my right to life and liberty?
Yeah, that was 20 years ago I wrote that song. And yeah, of course, then the concern was the biochip. Yeah, the chip. The little rice, the little piece of rice that had all the electronics. And well, guess what? The technology has changed now. They don't have to have a little chip. Of course, they do have people getting chipped. But now they're talking about an operating system with nanotech, graphene oxide, and linking up to the cloud through Wi-Fi. Yeah, this is real technology now. Catherine Austin Fitz was talking about this, several weeks ago, a month ago maybe. But that's what we're facing, folks. Anyway, I implore you to pay attention, get involved, and hopefully we can defeat this monster. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed today's broadcast, and if you have, I certainly would appreciate it if you're listening on BitChute or Rumble or YouTube or Facebook or whatever. Click like, share, subscribe, and above all else, spread the word. Word of mouth is the best advertising, and I can't help but think that because of the content of my shows, I'm being severely throttled. Yeah, I can't seem to get a whole lot of coverage out there. It's only going to happen if you help break the algorithm. Visit our website, listen to the show, spread it around, and like I said, get as many people involved as you can. All right, that said, it's weekend time. Yeah, TGIF. So have a good weekend. Be safe. Be free. God bless you all. And I'll see you on Monday.